And I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way that I'm positive for COVID-19. Like, how? Hello everyone, welcome back to Christine the RD. It's been quite some time since I've posted a video, and if you can't already tell by today's title, today's video is going to be a little bit different than the stuff that I've posted before. But I've gotten tons and tons of questions about my experience, so I figured, okay, let's just put it all in a video and address everything, and hopefully this will clarify some things and just give you a little bit more about my experience. So yes, I tested positive for COVID-19. I was sick with it for about 2 months. So just for some background, I am a registered dietitian in a long-term care home. So I am right on the front lines of this. So around the time that I got sick was at the beginning of April. And I think this is when I would say that our facility was in sort of a crisis mode. Like I think it was at the worst around that time, and that was when I had gotten sick as well. It initially started with a lot of chest pain. Like it did not feel normal for me to have chest pain like that because it's just not something that's usual. So it started with that, and I was having a tickle in my throat. So it wasn't something severe at that time, it was uncomfortable. So I tried to go get tested. I went to the hospital near me where they also have an assessment center, and I said, listen, like I work on the front lines, this is what I'm feeling. And they said, okay, well, do you have a temperature? I said no. They said, well, do you have X, Y, Z? So anyways, they kind of did an assessment, and the doctor in the end said, no, like I don't think you really have it, and I'm not going to test you for it. Just go home. You're likely like having allergies or something like that, so you'll be fine. And around that time is when I noticed that they weren't really testing people very much because like from the recommendations from public health and just the processes in general, like everything was so new and they were all being so cautious, but they ended up not testing me. And at that time as well, when we were at work, there was no recommendation or guideline for universal masking. We were just kind of like keeping our distance as much as we could, but there was essentially like no recommendation to be wearing a mask all day long. So I said, okay. So I continued working, and then I would say about a week later, so mind you, all of these symptoms have still persisted during that time, and then a week later I was still having the same symptoms, but I also noticed that I was having an on and off dry cough occasionally here and there. So I was like, okay, something isn't right here. Like I don't feel well, and I kept having to clear my throat, and it just wasn't a good experience. So I tried going again to get tested, and I said to them, listen, I'm really not feeling well. I'm on the front lines of this. My facility is in outbreak, and I would like to know for the safety of myself, my residents, and my family. You'll notice that I still have to clear my throat at times, and I do get short of breath, but I'll touch on that later. So yeah, they finally tested me at this point. I didn't have a temperature when I got tested. The only thing that they stated was that your pulse is super, super high, and I said, you know, it's likely because I'm super anxious from what's been going on. So they said, which is normal, we've seen it with a lot of people. So I got tested on a Thursday, and then the Friday following that day was Good Friday, so you know, we were going to be off anyways. So it was a kind of good timing around that point. So I got tested. I had work to complete that was due for Friday, but I remember Friday rolled around and I felt horrible. Like I could not do anything. So during that time I had spiked a fever, my cough had gotten worse, I was in so much pain. Like my body, I felt like a crippled. I could barely walk, I could barely move. I was having so much muscle aches. So then at that point I was like, okay, maybe I'm just getting sick, because when I get sick, like, you know, I usually feel like I have muscle pains, and I have a sore throat, I have like a cough, I had a horrible headache. But you know, I thought I was likely just getting sick, so I just kind of sat it out. So Friday night rolls around, and I was like, felt like my symptoms were just getting worse. I was so tired, so lethargic, so much pain, but I was just kind of hanging around, sitting on the couch that night, wasn't feeling so good. So then Saturday rolled around, and it was the same, but I would say worse. I was probably under like 3 blankets, a sweater, socks, sweatpants, like you name it, and under the covers. And I was still frozen. I was having such bad chills. I was feeling so cold. My temperature was high. And you know, at that point I was like, okay, I never get a temperature, but I still did not think that I had COVID. I was like, okay, there's no way. Although for some reason, I don't know why I didn't even think of it, I was on the COVID units at work. I was doing swallowing assessments. I had residents that were coughing in my face. At this point I was wearing a mask because that unit was an outbreak, so that was the protocol there, but every other place throughout the facility you didn't really have to, or we weren't given the direction to do that at that time. So I'm doing these assessments, I'm helping the residents, I'm feeding, I'm also like helping distribute the meals on the floor just because we were super short of personal support workers at that time and we just needed so much help. So I was on the floor and I was on the unit every single day trying to assist wherever I could. Okay, so then Saturday rolls around and I was like, okay, I really had to get that work done. I did get some of it done on the Friday because I needed to like complete it on the deadline, but I just could not find the power to continue. So Saturday rolled around, I continued it. I could barely open my eyes, barely sit up, barely do anything. I was super lethargic. I was in so much pain, but I had to get it done. So then I would say, you know, I was just kind of hanging around on Saturday. It wasn't feeling too good. And then we were about to have dinner and I kept checking for the results. Like every 10 minutes, I was like, is there results? Is there results? Is there results? I just wanted to know at this point because I was getting really paranoid. We're about to have dinner, as I said, and I finally checked and it was there. And it was in red and it said positive and I was like, oh my gosh, could this be any more, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just so, like debilitating. I just saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way that I'm positive for COVID-19. Like how? So I remember going downstairs to my family and I was like, I couldn't even say it. I just looked at them and I started crying and I was like, I'm positive. And so I think we all kind of were like, oh my gosh. So that was the experience of finding out. Going forward, I was essentially quarantined in my room for 2 weeks. I just have a little puppy who's about 5.5 months now. And so I had just gotten him right before the whole pandemic started. So my family and I always say that, you know, he came at the best timing because we've been quarantined at home with nothing to do. We can't go out and he's been keeping us company and, you know, it's been great. But at the same time for me, I felt like I was going to miss out on so many of his little milestones along the way. So yeah, that was super hard because I wasn't able to see him. We didn't let him come up into my room. I was just in here by myself. I had a little table and stool that we had brought in and that was like my makeshift dining table. My brother would bring my food to the door. I would eat everything in disposable plates, cups, cutlery, everything. I had my own garbage in my room. It was just not ideal, okay? So it wasn't fun. He would bring me like Tylenol, cold and flu. I think it was that. Twice a day. I hated it because I have to take my pills crushed in applesauce because I cannot swallow pills. And I say this as I'm about to turn 26 this weekend. And by the time you're seeing this, I'll probably already be 26. I'm not ashamed to say that I can't swallow pills. But anyway, so yeah, I had to take that every single day and I hated it. I would always fight with him and be like, I don't want to take it. Please just let me rest. So he would bring me that, he would bring me all these multivitamins. So yeah, no, he took great care of me. We have a bathroom that my brother and I would share because he came home to take care of me at that time and he essentially stopped using it. It was just for me. He would use the other bathroom. And at that point, so I had my own space in my room, I had my own bathroom. We were just trying to contain the spread of it as much as we could. I would not go out of my room except for if I had to use the bathroom or take a shower, whatever it is. I also have a balcony in my room, which I thought I would step out onto, but I just never did while I was sick because I was just so traumatized and I just did not want to go anywhere. So then after the 14-day quarantine, I went to get retested. Unfortunately, I tested again as positive. I was still having symptoms, like they did not go away. I would say yes, they got better, but I was still having horrible symptoms. So horrible chest pain, definitely something in my throat that was bothering me so much. I was still kind of feeling really weak and tired. So I wasn't able to go back to work then. I was still at home. And so what public health essentially told me is, you know, since you're still having all these symptoms, you're likely going to keep retesting as positive, so there's no point. So just wait it out at home, recuperate, feel better before you go get retested and go back to work. So 2 months later, I finally got my 2 negatives, thank you Jesus, and so I went back to work. And I went back to work for about 2.5 days, and then I just said, you know, I am in so much pain. I was having such horrible chest pains. My throat was just bothering me so much that I couldn't even like formulate a sentence. And you know, I was overwhelmed. It was so much too soon. I was working really hard and I just, you know, I couldn't handle it, even though I have my own office and I essentially am in my office and at my desk for like a lot of the day. It just was too much. So I ended up going off again for about a week and a half because I just, you know, I wasn't ready. So I took some more time off at home and I recently went back to work. I've been back at work for about 2 weeks now, so I've made it through longer than the first time. It feels good to be back in the groove of things. I love seeing my residents. I love being at work. It's nice to be back at work and back in the groove of things for sure. So a lot of people have asked me, what are your symptoms up until this day? So I still have chest pain that comes and goes. Some days it's worse than others. I definitely feel something in my throat that really bothers me. I don't know what it is. It feels like it's never gonna go away. I just feel like I always have to clear my throat. It just feels like there's always something there, like some sort of phlegm or like a bubble that I have to burst. I've never had that before. And I also should have prefaced by saying that I do have asthma. So I think that definitely contributed to the prolonged period and why I had been sick for so long. But you know, I just had a harder time with it than other people did, and that was my experience with it. I hope you all continue to stay safe. Please let me know if you have any further questions. I would love to answer them, and until next time. And here's my little boy that I was talking about earlier in the video. He is almost, thank you, so many kisses. Yes, thank you, yeah. Here's this little booger who's grown so much. You can say hi to people? You can say hi? You can say hi? Yeah, he's a good boy. So this little guy's name is Benji. He is just over 10 pounds now. He's getting so big. He's kept me such good company after I was quarantined. But he's been so fun. So the best thing to get during the pandemic lockdown. Right? Yeah? Yeah, I know.